welcome everybody to today's Wundertalks. We are at episode 29, and we have some great talks today. But before we start, I have to make an important announcement. I will do this on the end as well, but this is the super important one, and it's about today is the last day you can submit sessions for DrupalCon. So please, if you have a session for DrupalCon Amsterdam, then hand them in until tonight. And then we will have the following talks today. We will start with Roy Scholten. He will tell us something about where to start when making an existing site responsive. Roy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I just did, I think 2 weeks ago when we introduced the Dutch office. So I'm Roy, working for the Dutch and the Belgian offices of Wundertalks. I'm a user experience designer, information architect, interaction designer. I do a lot of Drupal core UX stuff, and I'm in the Drupal.org content working group. I was in Austin last week where we did a lot of initial work for a Drupal.org redesign. And this is my first Wundertalk.
And I think you're famous for making the Drupal.org design work. Is this correct?
Drupal.org. I have done most of my work is on Drupal 7 itself.
I see.
Boyan and me were, I think, the first time that two designers made it into the top 30 of contributors to Drupal 7 patches wise.
Great. So, and our other topic will be by our guest speaker, Robert Douglas from the CommerceGuys, and he will talk about platform SH. Is SH the right way to pronounce it?
Sure. Think about it like a shell script, right? So platform.sh.
All right. Okay. So let's start with the topic of Roy. And sorry for that. And Roy, you're online. Please start your presentation.
Okay. I'll share my screen. Do it. Full desktop. Does it work for everybody? Or for?
Yes, seems
okay.
Good.
So, topic today is where to start when making an existing site responsive. This is not so much about the technicalities of this, but a small initial offering you can do to the clients. What can we, just an analysis of the existing site to give a client a good idea about what goes into making an existing site responsive, so that he can make a good choice in where to put the effort. And this is a small analysis which will help sales and front-end engineers make a good assessment of where the complexities are, and gives the client an option to choose. So, yeah, making an existing site responsive is not necessarily that easy. There's some straightforward stuff you can do, and there's some specific items you need to take attention to. So what we're going over through shortly is that we'll have to identify main page layouts and see how they will stack for smaller screens. Then we have to identify the problematic components on the page, show why that's a problem and explain it. And then we have to propose solutions where it makes sense to make a distinction between quick fixes and quality wins. So I'll go over these, and we can look at an example at the end. So when I say identify the main page layouts, this is what I mean. Basically, what different kinds of page layouts are there, and of course every site has a couple of these. A home page has a different collection of regions, then a landing page, then a content page, then a search result or a listing page. So you have to audit the site and see how many of these generic templates are in the site, because for each of those you'll have to find the way to make those work for smaller screens. Now, I don't think it's that useful to discuss specific breakpoints with the client. They don't necessarily want to understand about this. This is technical stuff, and really how many breakpoints can we handle anyway. What it comes down to is, I think, that you have to define how to stack all the page regions. In the end, for the smaller screens, you just have to find the hierarchy of which comes first. And by using these simple schematics, you can explain a client that, okay, in the normal layout, your left-hand navigation is there, number 2, but if you're going mobile, then we have to put the content first. So 1 through 1, 3, 2, 4 is the sequence on the smaller screens for your regions. So this is the high-level inventory you do of the page layouts and stacking of the regions you have to define for each of those individual layouts. So that's the first part. Then, by going through the site, you'll have identified some elements on the page, blocks or views, page components that in their current shape will just not directly translate to smaller screens. You know, the heavy headers and the mega menus in the main navigation, light boxes, image galleries, complex tables, large forms, maps, faceted search, user interfaces. Some examples of stuff that you can't necessarily directly translate to small screens. So what do you do then? Because we're working towards a report, maybe a PDF with some screen grabs, which gives the client an overview of what goes into making it responsive. So the format we've been using is, okay, state the problem you've identified, show it and give an example, explain why it's an issue and how it becomes an issue on smaller screens, and then you propose solutions. And like I said, it makes sense to make a distinction between quick fixes and a quality win, and we'll go over those. So in this report, we have, for example, a bit too complex table that will just not work on smaller screens. So we have this table, when and where. We identify and show the problem with a screenshot. We explain that it just won't fit on small screens like that, and we mock up an example of how you can translate it to smaller screens by making it a simpler list. So, show the problem, propose a solution. You go over these components, and sometimes you have to provide a mock-up, sometimes you just can explain what you want to do. Another example was this jump to menu, which is one example where we identified a quick fix versus a quality win, because as you can see by the length of the green arrows, that the jump to menu, the content for each section is not that long. So we could either quick fix it with just hiding the menu on small screens, because it also got too wide at certain stages, or the quality win would be to just remove the whole UI pattern from the site, because 90% of the cases the content didn't really warrant having that navigation there. If possible at all, use analytics data to support your argument. This was a quick look at how many people actually clicked and used this navigation, and it was very little. So that helps make your case to just remove it as a whole, instead of just hiding it for mobile or smaller screens. Of course, you cannot only identify the problems, you have to provide those solutions as well. And like I said, we have to make a distinction between quick fixes. And the quick fix is just any hack, any display none or whatever to just make things fit on smaller screens. And the quality win is rework that page component in a way that improves the user experience across all screen sizes. So basically, you can use this as a way to simplify the desktop version, basically. So fix it upstream so that it is simplified or improved across the whole gamut of screen sizes. So basically, that's what, there you have it. This together, page layouts show how they will stack, identify the problematic components and show how they are a problem, and propose solutions as quick fixes versus quality wins. If you have questions, I'll take them. I can give you a quick look. Let's see of the report that followed from this. It's basically a PDF, and we identified with screenshots the problematic areas and display and showed our examples of how we propose to fix it. Focusing between quick fixes and quality wins. And based on this, a client can make a better considered decision about where he wants to invest in quality and where he just wants to have it a quick fix because that's just how it is. So based on this exercise, it can take you 1 or 2 days to do this audit and write it up. You have a good way to make the actual proposal for doing the responsive theming, because based on this, front-enders can make a better estimation about how much work it is, and sales has some materials to help the client decide between quick fixes and quality wins. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions so far? If you have any questions, please post it in the Wundertalks Skype channel. I can see nothing for now, or you can always get in contact with Roy directly if you want to have further insights into his talk. So we come now to our second talk, and this is about platform.shell. And welcome, Robert Douglas. Please introduce yourself and start with your presentation.
Hello, everybody. My name's Robert Douglas, and I'm with CommerceGuys. And CommerceGuys is very happy to announce that after 2 years of development, we've launched a product that we built for ourselves internally originally and are happy to provide now to everybody else. So CommerceGuys comes from a history of doing project work like an agency, but we also have a line of products like Commerce Kickstart, which we also develop, and that gave us 2 distinct different development workflows that we had to support internally with internal tools. So one where you're doing websites for clients, another where you're building a product that you iterate on over and over again and continuously improve. And we decided that we wanted a tool that supported our development best practices, as well as would give us a platform to give our customers end-to-end experiences, including a world-class hosting experience in the cloud. And the result of that is Platform. The URL is platform.sh, and the site's online now. This is what it looks like. And you can check out the pricing. The self-service plans range from $50, 40 euros, $50 a month to 450 euros, over $500 a month for live. These will be turned on next week. You can actually start to take your sites live next week. And let's take a look at it and what you can do. So this is the UI. This is the what you get when you're doing a project, and this is my demo project. The screen here is divided into a couple of regions. Over here I have the different environments that I'm working with. Up here I have the different controls that I'm able to do. And thanks, Bert Borland, for tweeting about this. That's awesome. So the real secret sauce that we got here is that we decided a dev stage production workflow doesn't work for our team. We noticed that when we're doing projects for clients, we usually start with a master branch and we push a whole bunch of stuff in there, and then at some point we branch that and start working there. So maybe we have a sprint, like here's an environment called Sprint 2. And inside of that, we have maybe some features like feature 1 and feature 2. Now, these are all things that I just made up, okay? But each one of these are real live website environments with the entire stack that you need to run Drupal, including your web server, your database, Solr, Redis, the file system, and they're complete exact copies of the production environment. How do I make these branches? Well, let's say we're done with Sprint 2 and we actually want to move on to Sprint 3. You branch just like you branch in Git. So here's Sprint 3. I'm going to go branch, and now I'm going to make a new copy of my master. You see it down here, and you see that there's a progress bar with all of the status information about what it's doing that it's building right now. And in about 60 seconds, 90 seconds, depending on how big your site is, you're going to have a completely new working environment, which one-to-one corresponds with a Git branch, which you can also branch again hierarchically, and that's how you do your work. So you're done with Sprint 2, I'd get rid of that. I'd move my team members to Sprint 3. I'd make new feature branches for that. They'd each work on their own feature branch. When they're done with their work, I'd review it on their branch. I'd merge it into Sprint 3, and then I'd merge it into master, which is the way that I deploy. That gives me the chance to practice the deployment several times before I actually deploy onto live or master. And it also means that the people on my team will never conflict with each other in their work because they're each working on an exact copy of the production database and site that's isolated from everybody else, and then we all merge to a common parent, the Sprint. It's also great for remote teams when you have to control the access control very carefully. So if I were to, for example, add a member to the Sprint 3, I'd go up here and I'd go to the user management and I'd add somebody. Okay, let's say this is a themer who's going to help me with my responsive design on this, and it's somebody we've hired from a different company, so I don't want to really give him access to everything because, you know, the trust relationship isn't that great yet, but I want to give him all the freedom that he needs to do what he's got to do, and I don't want to have to make him set up my project on his local machine. So this is actually perfect. So I'm going to make him a contributor to this sprint. Let's actually go up here and do it. I want to show you. Right. I could give this person detailed access level control to the different levels on each different environment. So, for example, my my person that I've hired could contribute to Sprint 3, but they could only read or see Sprint 2. And they can't come close to the master. So that gives me a really great hierarchical way to do the permissions. Great. So if I go back here, you'll see that my site has been built, and we're all good to go. So let me pop really quickly and show you another innovation that we've made on the local development side. Here I am. I'm going to show you in 2 minutes our command line tool called Platform. I type platform, and all of a sudden you see all of the different environments that I was just showing you in the web browser here in the local development environment as well. And you can see that I'm currently on. That didn't work out well. Let me try that again. You can see here that I'm in the security hotfix branch, and I want to actually show you what's in the repository. So my file system, and I hope you can read that okay, it has here we go. We're at the project level. It's got 3 folders. It's got the builds folder, the repository folder, the shared folder, and there's a symlink that's managed by the tool that points into the builds directory. So the idea for the local developer is that you make your doc root this www symlink, and you use the platform build command every time you want to build your local environment, and that ends up in the builds directory. So let me show you what's in the repository directory, and this is one of the great things. In the repository directory, you've got a makefile, a modules directory, and a themes directory. And the way that platform.sh encourages you to work as a project team is to put all the code that you aren't going to maintain yourself. And this is the modules from Drupal.org, the Drupal distribution, libraries from GitHub, modules from GitHub, maybe even a common module that your company has built that's on Bitbucket in a private repository. You put all of that in a makefile, and Platform will build your site from that makefile. But for the modules and the themes that you want to maintain yourself that are specific to that project, you put those in the modules and themes directory, and those get put into the right place during the build process. All I have to do is say platform build. It'll take all of the stuff in the directory there and build a complete Drupal site for me, update the symlink so that my doc root now points to the local version. So I think we're close to the time limit for my presentation. Obviously, there's a lot more that I could show about a tool that is this powerful and that complex, but I think it's probably better to open the floor to any questions that we might have.
Thanks, Rob. Let's have a look. No questions in the Skype channel so far, so if anyone has some, then please post it. But I got some questions mailed in from Florian Loretan. He is not able to join at the moment because he has to do some workshops, but I will just read them. What tools plans or plans do you have to integrate local environment with the platform?
So I've shown you already how we're able to build your local environment from the makefile, but that only accounts for the Drupal code. Our long-term plan, this is hopefully something that we can implement this year still, is to have a command called platform vagrant up. So if you're used to using vagrant, then you'll know that that sounds pretty cool already. And that would probably work something like this. We'd say platform vagrant up, and that would use our Debian distribution, which we use on in the cloud, and it would grab that distribution, it would start a virtual machine from that distribution, and it would use something like our Puppet servers to configure the servers the way that they're configured for your project online. Now, it's not that simple, because what I didn't tell you about Platform is that you can actually reconfigure the stack that is running your site online. So we have a great capacity in this tool to run other services other than just the typical web server, Solr, Redis, MySQL database. In fact, we've already added, for example, the hip-hop VM. So you can run PHP in a hip-hop VM, which is Facebook's great innovation. And we have strong plans to quickly add Node.js and MongoDB. So that starts to become a really complex stack. And in fact, the even longer-term roadmap is to open up an SDK where you can run any of your own Debian packages in this microservice architecture as well. So at that point, you can see why it would be important for Puppet to step in and configure the VirtualBox, the virtual machine on your server. But yeah, that's the long-term plan, is to say platform vagrant up, and you get a virtual machine on your local machine that has all of the configuration in the entire stack down to the last bit and configuration detail that you're running in production online.
I see. We have a question in the Skype channel. Henry is asking, is it possible to create own server configurations in Platform?
Are you able to,
For example, change the PHP memory limit
yes,
in different environments?
to an extent. To an extent that's possible, that's done in a YAML file, which lives in your code repository in an area separate from obviously the application code, which you use to add configurations to the different components like Nginx or Solr or PHP. And what that allows us to do is that you can practice the configuration change and deploying the configuration change because you push the code to the server rebuilds the environment based on that configuration change, and you can try that out on your development environments before you actually push it to live. So you can like practice upping the memory limit or practice changing the PHP version, and you deploy that with a package of code and you see how it works, and then you iterate on that, and only when you're really comfortable with it do you do that same git push to the master branch.
I see. I think you already answered some of the questions we had with the questions I asked before, but there was something about, are you planning to integrate MongoDB and Elasticsearch?
So we use MongoDB as part of our infrastructure already, and we have a fully planned to expose that as a service that you can run in your microservice architecture to the customer. That's not there yet. In terms of Elasticsearch, yeah, we love Elasticsearch, but it's not there yet. I don't know exactly where that fits into the roadmap. What we do, which is worth mentioning really quickly, is that we have two different deployment architectures. We have a microservice deployment architecture, which is what you see here, the virtual cluster that has every one of these little services runs in an LXC container. They're highly available and redundantly placed geographically. They're synchronized by DRDB. But we have a different deployment architecture, and so far the Wunderkraut customers who are using this use this architecture, and that's where we deploy across 3 instances in 3 different availability zones with clustered technologies. And one of the clustered technologies in there is Solr Cloud. So it's not Elasticsearch, but it's the latest version of Solr that is able to do a high availability cluster. But yeah, Elasticsearch is a great product, and I think they just got a lot of money in their funding.
All right. So no more questions as far as I can see. So thanks, Robert, to join us on this Friday. And also a big thanks to Roy for the front-end presentation. And we come to our announcements. So what I already said in the beginning, today is the last day to submit sessions for DrupalCon Amsterdam. Please hand in all your sessions until tonight. And a quick preview for the next week. We will have Adi Hunt from Tallinn. They recently launched many projects for the Estonian government, and he will tell us something about that. And we have also some new colleagues, and we might have another introduction round for the newcomers. So that was it basically for this very warm Friday from Munich. Any famous last words from the speakers?
See you in Amsterdam.
Thanks to all the Wunderkräuter. Good to see you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, and see you next Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.